Upon awakening from a tragic accident, I found that my once doting alpha husband had transformed. No longer did he whisper sweet nothings to soothe me, nor did he embrace me with warmth and tenderness. The fervent kisses that once ignited my soul were replaced by a cold, unyielding demeanor. He even wore a stony expression, rejecting my desperate attempt to leap into his arms. Heartbroken, I was resolute in my quest to reclaim his affection. Through my relentless efforts, he gradually began to soften, eventually showering me with love and protection once more. However, upon regaining my memories, I came to realize that I had previously sustained a head injury that had led me to mistakenly identify myself as the woeful protagonist of a melodramatic narrative, replete with a tragic backstory. To my utter dismay, I had even envisioned my bitter rival, He Chun-wei, as the antagonistic love interest. As I stood on the precipice of social embarrassment, ready to flee, He Chun-wei pulled me back into his embrace. With his fingertips gliding over my scent-laden glands, his voice dripped with danger as he inquired, "Where do you think you're going, my dear wife?" 1. I found myself in the aftermath of a car accident, awakening to the realization that my husband was not by my side. However, given his demanding work schedule and his nature as a considerate and magnanimous Omega, I naturally chose not to hold this against him. Surely, he had yet to receive any news of my predicament. Contemplating this, I swiftly retrieved my phone and navigated to my contacts, promptly locating his number. A foolish ex, He Chun-wei. I paused for a moment, my fingertips resting on the edge of the device. Couples in love often assign each other unique nicknames. Fool is my affectionate moniker for him. Yet, at that moment, I thought of a more direct term that would convey my sentiments more clearly. Thus, I changed it to darling husband. After updating the contact, I proceeded to dial his number. The phone rang for a few seconds before a deep, magnetic voice resonated on the other end. Speak. A single word, succinct yet revealing of his composed and steady demeanor. Truly, he is my husband. I wrinkled my nose and softly inquired, "Darling, when will you come to pick me up? I'm alone in the hospital and feeling a bit scared." There was a silence on the line that stretched for 10 long seconds. Just as I began to doubt whether the call had been disconnected, his voice finally emerged. "Yushu, did you submerge your brain in the bathtub before leaving today?" Huh? I was utterly perplexed, unable to grasp the meaning of his words. His cold, alpha tone instilled a sense of unease within me. My heart sank further as I pleaded, "Darling, are you truly not coming to get me? I've been hurt and I long to see you." Another silent pause ensued before he queried, "Are you really in the hospital?" I nodded, affirming, "Yes. Send me your location." After the call ended, I quickly forwarded him the hospital address and room number. Reflecting on his earlier unusual behavior, I reassured myself internally. My husband occasionally exhibits such traits, concealing his worries beneath a facade of calmness to maintain his composure. Restlessly fidgeting with the bed covers, I waited for approximately 20 minutes until He Chun-wei finally arrived. The door to my hospital room swung open, revealing the tall and imposing figure of my alpha husband. Dressed in a sharply tailored suit, one hand resting on the doorknob, the cold, elegant wrist adorned with an exquisite watch. His strikingly handsome features retained their sharpness even in the dim light of the hospital room, his jawline taut, radiating an innate sense of authority. Truly, he is my husband, exceedingly handsome. My heart fluttered as I watched him approach step by step, almost anticipating the words he would utter next. "Who permitted you to get injured?" That commanding yet alluring tone, impossible to resist. He Chun-wei finally stood before my bed, gazing down at me. Slightly bending forward, he uttered a few words. "Oh, your karmic retribution seems timely." I blinked, utterly bewildered. Slowly, I reached out to grasp his lapel, saying, "Darling, I didn't intend to get hurt." I lowered my gaze, feeling a blush rise to my cheeks. "For tonight's punishment, could you perhaps be lenient?" The expression on He Chun-wei's face flickered with momentary shock, his gaze dropping to where I held on to him. His eyes darkened. 2. He took me to see the doctor. A caring husband like him would not allow even the slightest oversight on my part. Inside the examination room, the doctor posed several rather simplistic questions such as, "Who is he to you? And what is your relationship?" He then examined the CT scan, expressing surprise and concern, before engaging in a lengthy discussion with He Chun-wei. I sat a short distance away, unable to hear clearly. Their conversation was a jumble of sounds, and all I desired was to return home with my husband. At last, their discussion concluded, and I saw He Chunwei approaching me. My heart soared, and I instinctively moved to embrace him as I usually would. However, he swiftly intercepted me, blocking my hug with an unnatural tone. Walk properly. I was taken aback, utterly astonished. He had not refused me in quite some time. What was this sudden change? Before I could regain my composure, he grasped my arm and pulled me outside. Let's go. I followed him, my mind in disarray, until we settled into his luxury car. Inwardly, I consoled myself. Perhaps he was simply feeling shy lately, disinclined to show affection in front of others. As the car smoothly cruised down the road, I yearned to converse with He Chunwei, but upon witnessing his displeased expression, I refrained from speaking. Yushu, you may be unaware of your current condition. He Chunwei initiated the conversation. You've suffered a concussion. I am still your wife, I gasped, my eyes widening in disbelief as I turned to him. What did you just say? My heart raced, panic rising within me. Darling, do you no longer want me? He Chunwei replied, I never wanted you. I knew I had to take action, yet my emotions felt inexplicably out of place. So, I discreetly pinched myself, a single tear cascading down my cheek at the opportune moment. In this moment, I must have looked pitiful and endearing. He Chunwei, as expected, muttered a curse under his breath, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Yushu, you are truly ruthless. Is your brain damaged merely to torment me? His heart softened, and I sighed in relief. I obediently said, Darling, you know I cannot live without you. He Chunwei's car came to a halt in front of a villa, and I turned to look, my face paling instantly. On the verge of tears, I exclaimed, Darling, this is not our home. He Chunwei's expression stiffened. After a brief pause, he said, I'm tired from driving. Is it too much to take a break here? This was the place He Chunwei had arranged for me when I was still his little pet. However, since our marriage, I had moved into the He family home and had not returned here. Fortunately, He Chunwei soon revved the engine and drove toward our home. 3. Finally, we arrived back home. I joyfully flung myself onto the soft sofa. After lounging for a while, I felt a thirst creeping in and decided to rise and fetch some water from the kitchen. To my astonishment, I discovered that my water cup was nowhere to be found. Not only the cup, but my daily essentials. My toiletries, utensils, clothing, had all mysteriously vanished, suppressing my bewilderment and heartache. I inquired of He Chunwei, Darling, where are my things? Yet, my voice trembled despite my efforts to maintain composure. He Chunwei, standing nearby with his arms crossed, sneered, What's the next step? Should we crown the Monkey King? Or perhaps you would prefer to change the property deed into your name. He Chunwei had changed, and I could no longer deny it. He no longer whispered sweet nothings to me, nor did he embrace me with warmth, nor did he passionately kiss me with fervor. Even in the hospital, he had coldly rejected my attempt to leap into his arms. My heart ached as I pondered the reasons behind this transformation. From the words of the Alpha, I gleaned a hint of truth. He had mentioned my brain being damaged, implying that he found me lacking and wished to cast me aside. After all, it was my intellect that had initially captivated him. My face turned pale as I stepped forward cautiously, gently grasping his sleeve. Darling, my mind is perfectly intact. I am quite clever. Please don't abandon me. The towering Alpha before me paused, momentarily taken aback. Gradually, his tone softened. I've replaced your belongings. They will arrive soon. My eyes brightened, and I looked up at him. Then I want matching couple items. He Chunwei regarded me, hesitating to respond. After a lengthy pause, he finally gritted his teeth. Fine. This cannot continue. If He Chunwei truly despises me, then my life, career, and family will all be utterly ruined. Without him, I would be left with nothing. I still vividly remember the years past when my father went missing, and my mother fell gravely ill. The weight of life's burdens fell squarely on my shoulders as an ungraduated university student. It was in a part-time job at a bar that I met He Chunwei. Beneath the dazzling lights, the powerful man swirled his drink, his gaze firmly fixed on me. He extended an olive branch to me. At a dead end, I agreed to become his mistress. He aided me in completing my studies and provided me with the means to afford medical treatment for my ailing mother. Yet, at the same time, he firmly grasped the reins of my life. He spoiled me, protected me, and offered me a life of privilege. However, later on, I inadvertently learned from one of his friends that I was merely a substitute. He Chunwei's true love had gone abroad, and he had taken me, someone who bore a slight resemblance to her, as a replacement. Shock, regret, and sorrow engulfed me. I resolved to leave him, but the domineering man who held dominion over Z-City kept me close. Chenwei was unwilling to let me go. He claimed that he had genuinely fallen for me and wished to marry me. Ultimately, after navigating through numerous misunderstandings and setbacks, we finally came together and wed. I too had genuinely fallen for him. I neither wished to leave him nor could I, for everything I possessed was a gift from him. Even if I did not consider my own well-being, I could not bear to see my mother suffer any longer. Taking a deep breath, I silently resolved, I must reclaim his love for me. I believed that, with my clever intellect and striking beauty, it would be a cinch to win him over once again. As night fell, I sat at the edge of the bed, adorned in the new nightgown that Chenwei had sent through his assistant, awaiting his return. A few minutes later, the sound of water ceased in the bathroom, and Chenwei emerged, rubbing his damp hair. I had deliberately struck a pose, carefully positioning myself so that the overhead light fell perfectly upon my cheeks. As he stepped out, I casually glanced up. Illuminated by the warm glow, my porcelain complexion must have appeared exquisite. To my astonishment, Chenwei took a step back without hesitation. His brows furrowed sharply. Are we filming a horror movie here? I pouted, thinking how utterly lacking in romance he was. Nevertheless, I continued, darling, it's late. Let us get some rest. The taut muscles of his abdomen were faintly discernible beneath his bathrobe, and I licked my lips, feeling my cheeks flush. You sleep next door, hurry up. My heart sank. Darling, what difference does that make? It's akin to me jumping off the balcony. Chenwei pinched his forehead and spun in place, likely attempting to mask his inner turmoil. He eventually relented. We did not sleep apart, but we did have separate blankets. Naturally, I was dissatisfied, but Chenwei insisted, behave yourself. I consulted a master today, and we're advised to sleep with separate covers lately. Otherwise, we might go bankrupt. Hearing this, my retort died on my lips. Fine, while wealth is but a trivial advantage of his, the prospect of bankruptcy would leave us homeless. I clutched the corner of the blanket and closed my eyes, feeling aggrieved. Then, I discovered that the card Chenwei had given me was missing. The realization struck me like a bolt from the blue. I was merely an omega without him to rely on. Without the card he had provided, how could I sustain myself? Later that day, when he returned from work, I moved closer to him, hesitating to speak. After all, I am not a vain omega who overly values money. Broaching the topic of finances was rather difficult. Chenwei turned to glance at me, distancing himself by 3 fists length. My heart ached, and I finally mustered the courage to speak. Darling, I began, the card you gave me has gone missing. Could you possibly lend me some money? His incredulous tone replied, I haven't even asked you for rent, and you're asking me for money? I was bewildered. But hadn't it always been you providing me with funds? I have no money left. He sneered, you just snatched a project from me last month. I was at a loss regarding what he meant, but it sounded as though he was unwilling to part with any money. I turned my gaze away, feeling dejected. Fine, if you're unwilling, I'll manage on my own. Worst case, I'll set up a stall. Chenwei retorted, make sure to set up far away, preferably in the Eastern District. That area was quite distant. Nonetheless, before bed that night, Chenwei still handed me a black card. I knew then that he still held feelings for me. Moreover, given his possessiveness, he would never allow me to go out and expose myself. I looked at him, touched. Thank you, darling. He lazily remarked, considerate interest. It has been nearly 2 weeks since the car accident. Chenwei still refused to touch me. I was despondent, and I had even reduced my takeout orders. It was time to take further action. They say that to win a man's heart, one must first capture his stomach. Thus, I sent Chenwei a message. Darling, come home early today. I'm preparing a heartfelt dinner for you. He replied promptly, who would want to eat your takeout? I huffed softly, feeling underestimated. As a diligent and resourceful omega, cooking was certainly within my capabilities. After sending the message, I dove into the kitchen. However, perhaps due to the aftereffects of the accident, I found my mind blank regarding how to cook. I had no choice but to pull out my phone for tutorials, rummaging through the refrigerator to haphazardly combine a few ingredients. A half-hour later, the kitchen was engulfed in thick smoke. Gripping the spatula, I rushed outside, feeling dizzy from the fumes. I encountered Chenwei returning home just in time and, in a panic, dashed over. Darling, the kitchen seems to have caught fire. He Chunwei looked incredulous. You just blew up my kitchen without even putting on a show, right? Thankfully, there was no actual fire. He entered the kitchen, busily opening windows for ventilation. He then stared at the contents of the pot and asked, "Is this what you made? A lump?" He struggled to find the right word to describe it, and I couldn't articulate what it was either. Yet, given the circumstances, I still felt a wave of embarrassment wash over me. I closed my eyes and spoke with a heavy heart. Darling, I haven't stepped into the kitchen for a long time, and I'm a bit rusty. You won't hold it against me, will you? He scoffed lightly. You've never stepped in here. He snatched the spatula from my nervously clenched hand and scrutinized me. His voice turned somewhat stiff. You're not hurt, are you? I knew then that he still cared for me. I wiped away non-existent tears from my eyes. No. In the end, He Chunwei drove me out for dinner. That night, as we lay in bed, he said, "From now on, let us talk things out. No more cooking. If you want something, just tell the maid." "All right," I replied. Reflecting on the earlier incident, I still felt a bit shaken. Without a second thought, I leaped into He Chunwei's embrace. In my eagerness, I didn't control my strength, prompting him to grunt. Is this an attempt at murder? It had been a while since I had felt so close to him, and feeling the solid strength beneath me made my heart swell with joy. With a subtle motion, I slipped my hand beneath the covers and looked up at him. Darling, I shall heed your words and refrain from entering the kitchen next time. It is a pity, though, that I can no longer prepare you those heartfelt meals. He, however, seemed somewhat tense, lifting his hand. Just as I anticipated him to push me away again, I felt that large palm tenderly resting against the back of my head, gently pressing my forehead against his chest. You are being utterly foolish. Do you think I rely on you for a meal? As he spoke, I could sense a slight tremor emanating from his chest, his serious tone betraying a hint of concern for my safety. Have you lost all sense of caution? You must not act recklessly in the future. I smiled sweetly. I knew you were worried about me. He paused, taken aback. I am only concerned that my house might become a haunted one. I chose to remain non-committal, fully aware of his hard exterior concealing a soft heart. Time passed, and suddenly a weighty voice broke the silence. Isn't it about time? Have you lost track of how long you've been pinching? Oh, I replied, sheepishly retracting my hand from his taut abdomen. The approach of enticing him through culinary means had proven ineffective. Thus I resolved to seek other methods. After much contemplation, I concluded that seduction would be the most effective strategy. Recalling our previous playful antics, I swiftly ordered several outfits online. Naturally, during the days of waiting for their arrival, I did not remain idle, diligently engaging in subtle physical contact with He Chunwei. With a physique as remarkable as mine displayed before him, I thought that on the first day he might remain indifferent, but surely by the 10th day, his resolve would waver. I was determined to stir his heart. Resolute in my mission, I began to act. One evening, as He Chunwei sat on the sofa in the living room, I casually approached and seated myself beside him. The warmth from our touching legs ignited a spark. He cast a fleeting glance my way before shifting slightly to the right. I mirrored his movement. He shifted again, and so did I. After the 4th time, his deep voice rumbled. Is that sofa burning your backside? Darling, I interlaced my fingers around his arm. I merely feel a sense of security when I am near you. There was a flicker of emotion in his brown eyes. He composed himself, his expression returning to its usual stoicism. 5 months and 4 days ago, you tripped and fell onto my leg, declaring that you would have it removed. Ah, I comforted him. Darling, how could you have such a nightmare? Perhaps you haven't been resting well during that period? He furrowed his brow but offered no reply. Encouraged by his lack of rejection, I pressed on. Turning my gaze to his sharp jawline, I leaned in and pressed my lips to his cheek. He was taken aback, then suddenly grasped my wrist, his eyes darkening. Yushu, are you getting carried away now? Or do you intend to harm me later? I gazed back innocently. I have never thought such a thing. Darling, it has been a while since you last touched me. His eyes narrowed slightly. Do you truly wish for me to touch you? Of course, I replied candidly, you are my husband. You can do whatever you desire. Upon uttering those words, my cheeks flushed slightly. After all, I was a modest omega, and expressing such sentiments was rather embarrassing. As my words lingered in the air, He Chunwei's hand found its way to one side of my face, his cool fingertips gently caressing my skin. Are you not having second thoughts? I licked my lips. Not at all. A glimmer of mischief flashed in his eyes as he suddenly produced his phone. Let us document this moment. Repeat what you just said. Pouted, wondering why he doubted my sincerity. Nonetheless, I nodded in agreement. Very well. As he began recording, I earnestly declared, He Chunwei is my husband, my alpha. He can do whatever he wishes with me, and I have no regrets. Immediately after, He Chunwei abruptly tossed his phone aside and closed the distance between us, capturing my lips in a fervent kiss. As our lips met, our breaths intertwined, creating an intoxicating closeness. My heart raced, a wave of exhilaration coursing through me. Despite this not being our first kiss, why did my heart pound so fiercely now? Felt as though I might faint from the thrill. He did not deepen the kiss. Instead, he merely grazed my lips, retreating only to nibble at my lower lip. Rising, his voice came out slightly hoarse. I'm heading upstairs. He then turned and departed. I sat there, stunned, watching his retreating figure. The sight of his well-defined backside, encased in tailored trousers, stirred an inexplicable urge within me. I shook my head, dismissing such bold thoughts. The air was laced with a delicate fragrance, reminiscent of cherry blossoms dancing upon the snowy peaks, an intoxicating blend of ice and softness, our pheromones mingling in the atmosphere. The allure of seduction proved effective, invigorating my spirits. I promptly began planning my next move. 2 days later, the outfits I had ordered began to arrive. Today, I adorned myself in a DK uniform. A light gray knitted vest paired with a crisp white shirt, the tie perfectly knotted, the slightly open collar revealing a hint of soft, fair skin. I had even styled my hair with care, hoping to evoke memories of our first encounter when I was still a naive youth. Soon, I heard He Chunwei's footsteps approaching the courtyard. I hastily arranged myself, sitting at a table near the entrance, rolling up my sleeves, my slender fingers delicately flipping through the pages of a book. The moment He Chunwei stepped through the door, I lifted my gaze, eyes twinkling, lips curling into a soft smile. Darling, you're back. He halted in his tracks. Did you visit a comic convention today? Not at all. Concerned he might not see me clearly, I approached him, book in hand. Do you miss me looking like this? He snatched the book from my hands and suddenly chuckled softly. You're reading a third-grade textbook, you shoo. I was taken aback. This book was something I had borrowed from a neighbor, merely a random selection. How could it be a primary school textbook? My face flushed crimson as I snatched the book back and hid it behind me, not wanting him to see. That's not the point. I blinked innocently. Darling, I dressed up just for you. Do you think I look good? He lowered his gaze, studying me intently for several moments. His large hand gently rested on my head, surprisingly refraining from teasing me. Not bad. Seizing the opportunity, I dove into his embrace. This time, he did not reject me. With one arm wrapped around my waist, he held me securely against him. As we embraced, I began to reminisce. Darling, do you remember? When we met at that bar during college. I was being bullied, and you came to my rescue like a deity. Later, you let me stay with you, helped pay my tuition, and even covered my mother's medical expenses when she fell ill. Perhaps it was then that I fell deeply for you. He paused for a moment. Did the aunt know about her illness while abroad? By the way, you arranged for her to receive treatment at the best hospital overseas. After holding each other a while longer, He Chunwei gently peeled me away from him, taking my hand and leading me to the living room. Suddenly, he made a request. Let me see your phone. I unlocked it and handed it to him. He confirmed, are you really letting me see it? I nodded, yes. A husband checking in on me must genuinely care. It was a testament to his attentiveness. I then observed as He Chunwei opened a certain red icon on my phone, searching for something. It was my novel app, one I had not visited in quite some time. I am uncertain of his intentions, yet the obedient Omega naturally refrains from questioning, remaining silent. As I gaze at the phone screen, He Chunwei's fingertips glide swiftly over it. His expression transitions from astonishment to curiosity, then to resignation, finally settling into a state of numbness, a captivating spectacle to behold. After a moment, he breathes in lightly. I have found it, the source of sin. I remain oblivious to what He Chunwei has discovered on my phone, but I sense that his demeanor towards me has softened considerably since the day I was discharged from the hospital. The effect is promising. I believe that he will soon change his mind. That night, I clutch the edge of the blanket and ask him, Darling, Can we share the same blanket tonight? He Chunwei replies, no. My heart sinks. Why not? He lets out a sigh, exasperated. Do you really think I'm some sort of ninja turtle? I look at him quizzically, detecting a different nuance in his words. Oh, we've been married for so long. Why are you still shy? He Chunwei counters, it's not shyness. It's fear. My confusion deepens. Fear of what? Fear that you might chop me up. Sighing inwardly, it seems He Chunwei is truly haunted by nightmares. I resolve to show him my determination. Seizing the moment when he is unprepared, I suddenly pull back the blanket and dive into his covers, exclaiming, the gold miner is here. I reach beneath him. Let me see if my husband's gold is hard enough. He Chunwei is momentarily taken aback but quickly recovers, grabbing hold of my wrist. You Xiao Shu, are you trying to see my divine gold? As an alpha, his strength is formidable. I find it difficult to break free from his grip. Thus, I lower my gaze, looking at him pitifully. Darling, look at me. I refuse to believe you are completely empty-handed. Perhaps my appearance is too pitiful. He Chunwei loosens his grip. A surge of joy fills my heart as I swiftly act. Turn and reach. This time, I finally manage to place my hand accurately in a certain area. After less than 2 seconds of sensation, he trembles and releases me. Now I am the one left in a daze, unsure whether to praise him or myself. Was I ever this capable? In a moment of confusion, the world spins around me. He Chunwei has seized both of my wrists, pinning me down. His knees press against my waist, rendering me immobile. His dark gaze fixes intently upon me, and a flush spreads from my neck to my ears. He leans in, indignantly pinching my cheek with one hand, gritting his teeth. You little lunatic. I part my lips to retort, but he silences me with a kiss. An alpha's fierce kiss, deep and consuming, amplifies the mingling of our breaths and the moist sensations of our lips in an intoxicating manner. I tilt my head back, surrendering to this fervent invasion. The air grows warm. Unbeknownst to us, our pheromones begin to intertwine. The scent of snow-capped mountains suddenly envelopes us, akin to an unexpected, silent snowstorm, carrying an innate sharpness. Yet, upon touching my skin, it transforms into a delicate mist amid the pine forests of the snow-capped mountains, exuding a cool yet steady woody aroma that is soothing. He Chunwei releases my hands, and instinctively, I wrap my arms around his neck. The snowstorm dances in, cherry blossoms bloom, and a sweet yet subtle honey fragrance wafts gently through the air. It feels as though we have kissed for an eternity, long enough for me to nearly lose my breath, until He Chunwei finally pulls away. My breathing is rapid, and I feel quite heated, uncertain whether it is his warmth or mine. A flicker of rationality remains in He Chunwei's eyes, while I am lost to instinct, ignoring everything else. I cling to his neck. Darling, you haven't marked me in a long time. My gaze becomes dreamy. Would you bite me just once? He Chunwei's throat rolls, his voice husky. You Shu, it's too late for regrets. His hand glides to the nape of my neck, sending shivers down my spine. Get ready, my dear. Trembling, I turn over, clutching the pillow tightly. The lingering effects of the temporary marking are powerful. I find myself wanting to be glued to He Chunwei's side at all times. However, he still has to work to support me, which is quite a concern. That day, upon returning home, he hands me several documents. Sign here, He Chunwei instructs. I've reviewed them. There are no issues. I am utterly bewildered. I glance through the papers briefly, suddenly feeling a throbbing headache. It seems I might be growing a brain. I inquire, darling, what is this? Documents your company needs to handle. Did you block your assistant? They ended up here. His words are a jumble, and I cannot comprehend them. I pout. I have only blocked scammers. Nevertheless, since He Chunwei claims there are no issues, I assume there are none. Thus, I sign my name with a flourish. Perhaps this is a legacy left for me by my husband, or rather, his riches. Once finished, I dutifully move to sit on his lap, draping my arms around his neck, resting against his solid chest. I tilt my face up, seeking a kiss. He Chunwei leans down, capturing my lips for a moment, releasing a wave of pheromones. I blissfully squint my eyes. I wonder when my brain will be normal again. In a daze, I hear He Chunwei murmur softly, but you look quite adorable like this. A surge of joy fills me, for I knew He Chunwei's affections for me run deep. At long last, I have achieved my wish to share the same blanket with him. However, he continues to withhold certain privileges and repeatedly emphasizes that I must not ambush him as I did last time. To ensure I can cuddle with my warm husband every night, I reluctantly agree. On this particular day, I change into a second outfit, a sweet maid costume. The black and white ensemble features a lace skirt that barely covers my thighs, and semi-transparent white stockings adorn my legs. This is my first attempt at such an outfit. It feels a bit odd, but I am willing to risk it all to incite Hee Chun-wei's primal instincts. Estimating the time of his return, I don my fluffy cat ears. Upon seeing him park through the window, I rush to the entrance to wait. Soon, Hee Chun-wei opens the door. I quickly strike a pose, declaring, meow. To my surprise, Hee Chun-wei's reaction is more subdued than I anticipated. He gazes at me for a few seconds before turning his eyes away. I watch as he walks past me, heading into the kitchen, then circling through the living room and onto the balcony. He appears quite busy, though I cannot discern what he is occupied with. Feeling defeated, I am filled with a mix of frustration and anger, so I follow him around like a little tail, staying close by his side. Darling, don't you have any comments to make? Hee Chun-wei responds, cunning little one. Though he says this, there is no trace of disdain in his tone. I step forward and embrace him from behind, preventing him from continuing his aimless wandering. I wore this outfit just for you, I pout. Your indifference suggests a lack of respect for your adorable and obedient Omega? Hee Chun-wei turns, cornering me against the wall. A storm brews in his eyes, and his breath becomes erratic. My cheeks flush as I lightly touch his chest with my fingertips. Are you looking to play with fire? Or perhaps you wish to engage in awkwardness? Hee Chun-wei suddenly leans closer, vividly illustrating. You shu, your mind isn't clear yet, so I won't touch you. However, if you dare to mention a breakup after you recover, I will claim you immediately. You will be bound to me for eternity. What? I stare at him, trembling with excitement, goosebumps rising all over me. Yes, this is the feeling. A strange thrill bubbles within me, as the domineering, possessive, and obsessive Hee Chun-wei has returned. I lean in and plant a kiss on his lips, my eyes glimmering. Can we have that now? Hee Chun-wei bent down and effortlessly lifted me up, his grip on my thigh almost forceful. My abdomen pressed against his shoulder, and I couldn't help but exclaim, you! He then silently transitioned to a Princess Carrie, cradling me as he entered the bedroom, where I sank into the softness of the large bed. The alpha leaned down, his cold breath enveloping me. I was taken aback. Otherwise, I keep recalling the scenes of you mischievously teasing me in the past. It's quite disturbing, he remarked. Confused, I turned my head to look at him, who had just playfully smacked my backside. He then flipped me over, and the alpha kissed me fervently. My skirt was torn, and his veined hands gripped my legs. The room was increasingly saturated with the sense of snow-capped mountains and cherry blossoms. Yet, we hadn't progressed to intimate contact. Nevertheless, he turned me over repeatedly, leaving me exhausted. Afterward, I trembled, my hands and legs aching profoundly. How delightful. I had finally managed to rekindle Hee Chun-wei's affections. He transformed back into the husband who adored and cherished me as before. He would kiss me in the morning as he left and again at night as he fell asleep, firmly catching me when I leapt into his arms upon his return. And he would shower me with unique little gifts daily, making time for dates with me. I believed we would continue to live in this blissful manner indefinitely. However, an unexpected turn of events transpired that day. As I joyfully scrolled through my social media feed, I suddenly stumbled upon a post from Chu Lin. Young Master Shun has finally returned to the country. Let us meet tonight. Everyone. Confetti. Confetti. The accompanying image depicted a slender figure, an omega holding flowers, standing beneath an airport sign, sunlight streaming through the glass to cast a warm glow upon him. Chu Lin was a friend of Hee Chun-wei, and I recalled how his friends had once looked down upon me when I first started dating Hee Chun-wei. After all, at that time, I was merely a pitiable omega with a tragic background. Recognizing the person in the picture sent alarm bells ringing in my mind. This individual was none other than Hee Chun-wei's white moonlight, Shun Chiron. He was back in the country? Did Hee Chun-wei still harbor feelings for him? Would he possibly be thinking of him? The thought of such possibilities struck me with pain, and panic surged within me. If he still had feelings for Shun Chiron, might he leave me? My thoughts were in disarray as I opened the chat with Hee Chun-wei. Just half an hour prior, he had sent me a message stating that he would be working overtime and returning home late. What an uncanny coincidence. Surely he planned to meet Shun Chiron. My heart ached to the point of breathlessness. After wallowing in sorrow for a while, I resolved that I could not remain passive. I needed to take initiative to keep He Chunwei by my side, ensuring he could not bear to part with me. After much contemplation, I concluded that only one method remained. That evening, I had the maid prepare a lavish spread of dishes. I forced myself to eat 3 large bowls, the taste akin to chewing wax, until my once flat stomach bloated slightly. I even gulped down a bottle of soda, and once adequately prepared, I dialed He Chunwei's number. He promptly answered, "What's the matter, husband?" I elongated my tone, feigning a pitiful tone. "I'm feeling a bit of pain in my stomach. Could you come home now to keep me company?" Stomach pain? I could hear rustling on the other end, as if he had stood up. His deep voice reached my ears. "I'll return right away." "What kind of pain is it? Diarrhea or cramping?" "The medicine is in the storage cabinet in the living room, 2nd row, 3rd compartment." "Never mind. Don't take the wrong medicine. Let us wait until I'm back to check." "Or how do you feel now? Do you have the strength to take a taxi to the hospital?" He spoke patiently, his tone filled with concern and urgency. I felt a pang of guilt but brushed it aside. "No need." I whispered into the phone. "Just hurry back. I have something to tell you." "All right." 20 minutes later, He Chunwei returned. Upon entering the house, he quickly approached me, scrutinizing me from head to toe, particularly focusing on my complexion. Despite my efforts to appear wan, my face was perhaps too flushed. He regarded me with suspicion. "Still in pain, husband?" I averted my gaze shyly. "Actually, I'm pregnant with your child." "He Chunwei?" He fell silent for a moment, casting his eyes toward the dining table, still adorned with untouched food. He then asked, "Is it a little lobster or braised beef?" Caught off guard by his immediate recognition, I felt flustered. I hastily lifted my shirt to reveal my slightly rounded belly. "Look, it's true. I have a baby." He Chunwei pulled my shirt back down, enveloping me in his embrace. "Be good. Let us wait until later to conceive again," he said. "You're not well. I worry this might be hereditary." "How much did you eat?" "Let me rub your belly," he said, genuinely placing his hands on my abdomen to massage gently. It felt pleasant, yet I was still miffed. How could he not believe me? I pouted. "Husband, don't you like our baby?" "He Chunwei, how on earth did you become pregnant? Can't be that you've cheated on me." "Of course not." I glared at him. "Have you forgotten? 3 months ago, that night, we were lost in passion, oblivious to the world." He Chunwei was rendered speechless. I decided to wrap my arms around his waist, striving to burrow deeper into the embrace of the alpha. "In any case, I'm having your child, and you mustn't leave me. You mustn't seek out your white moonlight." The last statement was muttered softly, yet He Chunwei caught it. He repeated in a low voice, "White moonlight. The plot has progressed to this point, no wonder." I accused. "Have you forgotten? In the beginning, you treated me as his substitute." He then playfully smacked my backside in a manner that was unusually serious. "That's not true. I have only ever liked you." I stood frozen. He continued, "I have only liked my occasionally obedient and adorable Yushu baby. In the past, present, and future." My heart raced wildly, and I felt that those words resonated more deeply than mere embraces and kisses. My heart brimmed with sweetness as I suddenly turned, straddling his lap and gazing into his eyes. I asked, "Really?" "Really," he replied helplessly. "If it were false, you could chop me into pieces." I joyfully hugged him, resting my head on his shoulder. He Chunwei supported my backside and suddenly stood up, prompting me to wrap my legs around his waist. He carried me up the stairs in this position, and soon, the bedroom was suffused with a rich pheromone. In the following days, He Chunwei returned home right on time after work, spending nearly all his free time with me. Occasionally, when I checked in, he would respond instantly. He even took the initiative to show me his phone. I found no contact information for Shinchiron in his WeChat contacts, which alleviated my unease. However, fate is not always in our favor. One day, after we finished dining at a restaurant, he encountered a project partner and went to chat, leaving me in the lobby. Suddenly, someone sat down across from me and exclaimed, "Yushu?" Hearing my name called, I looked up, only to have my pupils constrict in shock upon recognizing the person. It was Shinchiron. "What are you doing here?" He eyed me warily. "Are you here to cause trouble for Higu again? Why won't you just disappear?" A fleeting sense of turmoil crossed my mind, and recalling that I was the legitimate wife, I steadied myself and rose, cup in hand. "Why can't I be here? I came with my husband, He Chunwei." Upon hearing this, Shin Chiron erupted into laughter, as if he had just heard the most ludicrous joke. Your husband? You must be dreaming. How could brother he possibly fancy someone as boorish and fierce as you, and Omega? Do not dare to slander him, I exclaimed, my eyes widening in disbelief. What did I just hear? How could someone like me, obedient, intelligent, understanding, brave, principled, sincere, optimistic, selfless, diligent, and resilient, be described in such a derogatory manner? He is indeed a malicious person. Do not slander here, I said sternly, lest you attract divine retribution. Shin Chiron stood up, leaning closer with a disdainful expression. I never expected that after more than a year, you would still be putting on an act. Pausing, he glanced over my shoulder, smirking. Let us see whose side brother he will ultimately take. With that, he grasped my wrist and tugged me towards him. In response, I splashed my drink all over him. It is well known that I am a gentle and kind Omega, rarely prone to anger. Yet, in that moment of defiance, an unprecedented sense of exhilaration surged within me. Before I could utter another word, hurried footsteps approached. It was He Chunwei. Shin Chiron, the villain, promptly accused. Brother he, look at you Shu. She is bullying me. He wore a pitiful expression. I merely greeted her, and who knew she would suddenly douse me with her drink? My heart sank as I stiffly turned to face He Chunwei, who had approached my side. Tension gripped me as I clenched my fists. He scrutinized me from head to toe, as if confirming something, then asked, Were you bullied? He was looking directly at me. The tip of my nose tinged with a slight ache, and I nodded emphatically. Yes. Shin Chiron's smug expression froze. Brother he, you should be asking me that, right? He Chunwei encircled my waist, pulling me into his embrace before turning to Shin Chiron, his tone turning icy. We are not familiar. Moreover, my Shu would never initiate a confrontation without cause. You bullied her first, and yet you dare to seek justification? Now it was Shin Chiron's turn to look incredulous. She would never attack without provocation? Have you forgotten how she often troubled you before? I am not just anyone. He Chunwei remained unfazed. That was merely our playful banter. Is that so hard to comprehend? Shin Chiron stood there, dumbfounded, as if struck dumb. Apologize, He Chunwei frowned, his tone laden with authority. Look at how frightened you made my Shu. Shin Chiron seemed genuinely stunned into silence, managing to stammer out, Why yes, sorry. Then, I was led away by He Chunwei. He had indeed chosen me over the white moonlight. My heart swelled with sweetness, and I was almost moved to tears. Husband, you finally let me win once. He Chunwei responded, Rest assured you will never lose again. I was elated, floating on air. Lost in my joy, I failed to notice as I walked straight into a glass door, which was so spotless it seemed to vanish. Bang! A loud crash echoed, and then darkness engulfed me. When I regained consciousness, my head throbbed, and fragments of the past flooded my mind. Memories of my time with He Chunwei, the 3 months following the car accident, played vividly in my thoughts. Scenes of the white moonlight, the substitute, the shattered version of myself, and the heroic figure that was him, all illusions. After the accident, I had unwittingly cast myself into the role of the protagonist in a cliched novel, with He Chunwei as the leading man. He Chunwei, my sworn adversary. We had been at odds for years, engaging in a battle of wits and words, and now I had ended up entangled with him in ways I could scarcely describe. I squeezed my eyes shut, nearly fainting from the embarrassment. How mortifying! I replayed in my mind the things I had said and done to He Chunwei after the accident. My vision darkened. Was he secretly mocking me? Yet, he appeared to be enjoying himself lately. Even if I were to concede 1,000 times, was this situation solely my fault? Certainly not. He Chunwei bore his share of the blame. What was his story? Had he fallen for the version of me that was mentally compromised? If he were to discover that I had regained my memory, what would he think? A sharp pang coursed through my chest, and I refused to contemplate the possibilities. No, I needed to gather my thoughts. He Chunwei was not in the room. I had no idea where he had gone. I swung my legs over the bed and made my way toward the door of the ward. My thoughts were a chaotic jumble and my steps faltered. Turning a corner, I unexpectedly collided with He Chunwei, who was approaching from the opposite direction. My brain short-circuited, and my instinctive reaction was to bow my head abruptly. After a few seconds, I attempted to flee. However, He Chunwei pulled me back into his embrace. His alpha fingers grazed the scent glands on my neck, his tone dangerously low. Wife, where do you think you're going? My body immediately softened, and heat flooded my cheeks. He Chunwei, I accused. You're taking advantage of me. Are you feeling better? He Chunwei chuckled lightly, countering. How could it be otherwise? It was a mutually agreeable situation. I have evidence. Instantly, scenes of him coaxing me with shameful words flooded my mind. I instinctively reached for his phone in his pocket, but He Chunwei skillfully seized my wrist, pulling me tighter against him. He spoke almost directly into my ear, his voice laced with a hint of grievance. Shu Shu, how cruel of you to consider abandoning me. I automatically retorted. I'm not. He looked down at me. Then let us go home. I was bewildered. I had regained my memory, yet He Chunwei seemed unaffected by the revelation. After taking a few steps, I halted. He Chunwei, we were never in a romantic relationship before. I merely misunderstood due to my mental state. I explained, my voice shrinking as I noticed his increasingly darkening expression. I return your words to you. He Chunwei replied. Look me in the eyes. I refuse to believe you are devoid of feelings. As he spoke, he cupped my face in his hands. When our gazes locked, I saw love reflected in his deep-set eyes. My heart raced wildly. It was anything but empty. My mind was alive with color. But I pouted. We never officially confessed. How can it count as being together? Very well, He Chunwei stated earnestly. You Shu, I like you. Will you marry me? My eyes widened in surprise and I corrected him. No, let us date. Let us do it again. I like you. Will you go out with me? My heart raced chaotically. After 2 seconds of self-convincing, I struggled to suppress the smile threatening to break free and replied. All right. Being with He Chunwei wasn't so bad after all. Seeing how much he couldn't bear to be apart from me, I would begrudgingly pamper him a little. My mother was not gravely ill, and I was not some destitute wretch. My father had passed away early, leaving my mother and me. A few years ago, after I gained control of the company, my mother moved abroad. I had known He Chunwei for nearly 7 years. He was a senior, 1 year my elder. I could hardly recall the initial reasons for our mutual disdain. It was a distant memory. However, our rivalry soon became routine, and over the years, we left indelible marks on each other's lives. Shinchiron is certainly no white moonlight, but rather a university classmate who has long harbored a secret infatuation for He Chunwei. Perhaps it is his pretentious demeanor that irks me the most. The downside of regaining my memories is that I must return to work. Previously, it was He Chunwei who managed my affairs, relying on trustworthy individuals to make decisions on my behalf. Gone are the days when I could blissfully awaken at my leisure, and this thought vexes me greatly. That evening, I inquired of He Chunwei, hypothetically speaking, could you not support me? No need for hypotheticals, he replied, his hand restlessly slipping beneath my clothing to rest at my waist. I will support you, I sighed, non-committal in my response. As our conversation meandered, He Chunwei soon became fixated on how I addressed him. Shu Shu, why do you no longer call me hubby? It was utterly nauseating, and I found myself unable to utter the words. I feigned indifference, replying, we aren't even married yet. How fanciful of you. Then when shall we marry? I counted on my fingers, we've only been dating for 3 days. He fell silent for a moment before saying, what about the past 2 months? I chuckled. That was merely me enjoying the benefits for free. He Chunwei's sensitivity arrived unexpectedly, coinciding perfectly with my own period of heat. Upon awakening that morning, I felt a slight dizziness and warmth coursing through my body. I initially dismissed it as a common illness and took some medication. It wasn't until evening when the back of my neck began to burn, pheromones flooding my senses, and my body felt as if it were ablaze that I realized my heat had arrived. Upon entering the house, He Chunwei was immediately enveloped by the intoxicating aroma that filled the air, almost simultaneously being assailed by my distinct and piercing scent. The alpha's demeanor was also peculiar. His usually calm eyes now flickered with intensity. He Chun. I barely managed to utter his name before he silenced me with a kiss. I retaliated defiantly, as if to determine who would emerge victorious. I lost track of how we made it to the bedroom. Our clothes were discarded, and as my bare skin met the cool air, I shivered, only to be swiftly engulfed by waves of heat. My pupils dilated, and through my blurred vision, I caught a glimpse of the faint blush adorning He Chunwei's eyes. Breathless, I struggled to wrap my legs around his waist, bracing myself against the surging tides. It was as if winter and early spring clashed in our breaths, the unmelted snow gently kissing the sweet stamen of cherry blossoms. The room was filled with enchantment. Chinwei's sensitivity lasted for 3 days, during which he relentlessly pursued me throughout the various corners of our home. He even coaxed me into donning that absurd outfit we had previously purchased, only to tear it to shreds. In that moment, I truly lost all sense of the world around me. The end of the text. Thank you for listening, and we shall meet again in the next story.